then as the story plays out, Cain kills Abel. And so then what happens, and I'll move quicker here, and because this is all teaching for another time, but it's really good stuff, is Cain kills Abel, and then Adam, and then of course Cain is banished. He walks the earth as a vagabond, and of course he has children, and so he has a story. He goes on and lives his life. So then Adam and Eve come together again, and they have a child named Seth. And of course, you got to know what the first thing they're thinking is. Oh gosh, is this the promised seed? God said a seed was coming. But of course, Seth is not the seed, and Seth is of course born of Adam and Eve, who have spiritual death in them. So Seth, of course, is spiritually dead. And then, of course, next is Enos comes. And Enos, I believe, comes directly from Seth. And Enos, it says, then men begin to call upon the name of the Lord again. So what's happening here is Enos is believing the story that Adam and Eve say about the coming seed. Spill the blood of the animal as a type of credit. Keep offering that so God can work with you in the midst of your sin to kind of keep your sin off to the side until Jesus can come and pay it off later. So Enos believes that, and of course Enos is teaching that to his kids. And I have a list here. So we go down. So Enos, of course, had Canaan. And now remember, each one of these people is living like 800 or 900 years, right? So Enos had Canaan. Canaan had Mahalaleel. Then there was Jared. Then there was Enoch. Enoch was the only one that lived. He lived 365 years, I believe. And he was the one translated, which is interesting. But Enoch gave birth to Methuselah. Methuselah, the oldest living person, 969 years. Methuselah had Lamech. Lamech only lived 777 years, I believe, and he was the first person to die before his father. So he actually died before Methuselah died. And Lamech had Noah, and of course Noah had his 3 sons, one of whom was Shem. And what's interesting about this is these people lived so long that you knew your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your great-great-grandfather, your great-great-great-grandfather. So when you actually do the math on this, Adam himself is still alive. Adam is alive, though he has Seth. Seth has Enos. Enos has Canaan. Canaan has Mahalaleel, who has Jared, who has Enoch, who has Methuselah. Adam is alive for all these births going down through his genealogy. So actually, if my number's not exactly right, it's super close. Feel free to study it out yourself. Adam and Methuselah walked together 243 years. So what do you think they're talking about when the family gets together for barbecues? They're talking about the promise God made to send this seed. The enmity between the seed, that a seed is going to come with life, and this seed is going to destroy the spiritual death that Adam and Eve brought on humanity. That's what they talked about, that this seed is coming. And of course they would, each of these people, as the father of their family, they were the priest of their family, they would make sure that they were spilling the blood and communicating to their children, communicating to anyone who will listen, that God is coming with a Redeemer, but you must believe it, and you believe it by adhering to this policy of sacrificing the animal, pouring out the blood as a type of Christ. So that's what they would talk about when they got together. And of course, Enoch walked with God, so how close the communion was between these people who walked with God, even though they were spiritually dead. Even though they didn't have the life that we have, they still had a way where they could walk with God. And Enoch was so pleasing to God that God took him. And man, talk about the faith on how much Enoch wanted to walk with God as a spiritually dead man. And of course, Enoch had Methuselah, then Methuselah had Lamech, and Lamech had Noah. And if you do the math on Lamech, Lamech actually walked with Adam 56 years. So Lamech knew Adam. So Lamech knew the first-hand account of creation, of Adam naming all the animals, helping God arrange the created world, and of course the fall, and of course the devil, of course the promise of the seed to come. Lamech got that firsthand from Adam. So now, by the time Noah's on the scene, Adam is dead. But of course, Noah can still talk to Methuselah, who got first-hand account of creation, the naming of the animals, of Lucifer in the garden, of the fall, of the promised seed, of God spilling the blood as the type of Christ. So Methuselah is telling Noah this story, and Methuselah got it firsthand from Adam, so Methuselah is second-hand story of the creation, for crying out loud. And then, of course, Noah, you know of the flood. We're not going to go all into that, but Noah, of course, has Shem. And so Shem, of course, knows this story through Methuselah as well. And so the point I want to get to before we close this service is that think about how long these people lived. So Adam lived 930 years, I believe. So that's basically 15.5% of human history. Right? We've been around about 6,000 years since the beginning of the creation. And Adam walked about 15% of that. But by the time you add up Adam's lifetime and the way it crossed and walked with Methuselah, who is 969 years old. Of course, Noah lived 950 years. And then, of course, on into Shem's life, that you add up the first, second, and third-hand accounts of creation. So from Adam to Methuselah and Methuselah to Shem, you add up, you aggregate those ages, and you'll see that basically it's about 2,150 years, give or take, where, I mean, think about that. That's like 35% of human history where you could have from Adam, Methuselah to Shem, first, second, and third-hand knowledge of the creation of the earth, of Adam naming the animals, of Lucifer coming into the Garden of Eden, of man's fall, God promising redemption, and the credit card of the animal blood, that by the time, and Shem knew that as only third-hand knowledge, and that covered about 35% of human history, where you could have first, second, third-hand knowledge of creation itself, of Adam being the first man. I mean, that's just incredible stuff.